set.
All right. Gracias. Well, we are in the Second London Baptist Confession, and we are in chapter 9. We started paragraph 1 last week, and we're gonna look back a little bit at that because we didn't finish the whole thing up. So I'm gonna go ahead and forward this for a minute. And to that in a minute. But what I'm trying to do is that it?
Last of the first.
Oh, I thought I put the.
I have it over here. I just didn't move it over there.
That's good. I thought I put the.
Did you have an update on your dad's service or anything?
It went extremely well, better than I could have hoped.
Can't hear you.
It went extremely well, better than I could have hoped. It was quite a blessing.
You were just there overnight?
I wasn't even there overnight. I was just there during the day on Tuesday.
Long day Tuesday.
Very long day Tuesday. 4 flights in one day. Don't bring that. But it worked out.
Or what?
4 flights in one day.
That is no good.
So you had to fly to Chicago and then fly there.
I flew to Charlotte, flew to Richmond, and then from Richmond to Chicago. And then that was
So you overshot Indianapolis.
Right. That killed me when I flew out east that time. I had to fly to Chicago.
Yeah, and then back.
I ended up getting a direct flight when I got there, but when we flew back, we had to fly to Chicago.
So this was the paragraph 1, just by way of reminder, so everybody can put that back in your brain for our finishing up of our discussion today. The paragraph 1 said that God has endued the will of man with that natural liberty and power of acting upon choice, that it is neither forced nor by any necessity of nature determined to do good or evil. So the will of mankind as it is given to us is we are made in God's image as a human. It is free. We can choose either good or evil. We can choose either one that we desire to. So now we talked a little bit about what the will was. We talked a little bit about human nature, and the emphasis on human nature. Okay, there it was. The emphasis on human nature is simply this. We tend to think in terms of being a part of human nature to sin, that is part of our human nature. The fact that we sin is not part of our human nature. It is a part of our fallen nature or our sinful nature or the nature of the flesh, we might say. We'll get to that in a week or two, but it is not part of our human nature as our human nature is originally made. And we know that because Jesus has a human nature that he took upon himself, and he did not sin. So it is not necessary for according to our human nature, for us to sin. We can choose either good or evil out of our human nature. Unfortunately, the human nature is not the only nature that we now possess. And that is why we have a corrupted human nature. We have a sinful human nature. And because we have that corruption, that is what leads us into sin. That is the source of our temptation, the source of our sinful desires and so forth, which again we'll get to shortly, or in a week or two. But the human nature as it exists in itself is not necessarily bent toward evil. With human nature, with our human nature according to that, we can choose either good or evil. We are free. So to recap, God has made the will of man to be free by nature. It is free. We can choose either good or evil, whichever that we desire. God has made the will of man to act upon one's choice. So here's the thing that oftentimes people get confused with. Some people will believe that that proof for free will is in the fact that there are choices before us. There are door A, door B, door C. Well, how do you know that your will is free? Well, I could have chose this. Well, how do you know you could have chosen that? Well, I have these choices. Well, okay, but that doesn't tell me that you wouldn't choose the same door every time if you had the same set of circumstances. That doesn't mean your choice is not determined. It just simply means that there's a presence of choices that are available to you. However, God has made the will of man to act upon one's choice. You can choose whatever you will. Whatever you want to, you will. You can, in fact, as we'll see, you will choose whatever it is that you want to. The choice is not forced. You don't have to do it. And so it is free in that sense. It's not like somebody's holding a gun to your head. It's not like somebody's programming you. You have the choice to do whatever it is you want to in that particular situation. The will of man is not forced. That choice is not determined by nature. That's the key phrase. By nature to do good or evil. Basically, this is simply a restatement or application of that first point. You're free to do either one you want.
I mean, Adam and Eve were created perfect, and they chose to sin.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. Them being created in the state of innocency. Absolutely. So yeah, the choice is not determined by nature. We can do either good or evil as it relates to our nature, our human nature. It is not forced. Human beings can do whatever they want. And by the way, that is why we are morally responsible for what we do. Because we can choose to do whatever we want. That's why we're morally responsible. In fact, human beings will do whatever they want. Now, this one's a little more of a controversial statement, I think, so let's stop for a minute and think about it. Human beings will do whatever they want? Is that always the case? Have you not ever done something that you didn't want to do?
Perhaps because we confuse the term want with prefer.
I mean, people look back and say, well, I didn't really want to do that. But if they hadn't wanted to do it, they wouldn't have done it.
I don't want to go to work every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do because you want to eat. See? There's consequences for your choices.
And because you want to eat more than you don't want to get up in the morning, you do want to go to work.
See, herein lies the crux of the matter, right?
Yeah.
We always do exactly what we want to do in any given situation, given our awareness of all the options that are available to us. So in the case that you mentioned, I understand what you're saying. Like, it's like, I don't want to sit on this phone and talk to these people all day. I don't want to,
I feel that every morning.
but when you start weighing the options, you can easily not go to work, right? All it takes is you just hang the phone up, turn it off, whatever, turn off your computer, the email, everything else, and just turn on the TV. Whatever it is that you prefer to be doing, you can easily do that. Why don't you? Because you don't want to get fired. Because getting fired carries with it a whole bunch of other consequences that you don't want to have. And so you weighing the options available to you, that is the most desirous option in that moment for you. And that's why you always do what you want. That is why for everything that we do, for every action that we do, we will give an account. Because we wanted to do that action. And it's very interesting to me to think back on the things that I have done throughout my lifetime. And because I know I'll be given an account for them one day, and I'm like, okay, why did I do that? What was it that I desired out of that action, out of performing that action? What is it? I'm very fond of saying, why does a person do what they do? Do you remember the answer to that?
Because they want to.
Because they want what they want, right? Because they want to.
Rob said
Yes,
that.
Pastor Rob. Yeah.
No, that was not Rob. That was me. It was just that long ago.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought he was a little
I thought that was
bit.
his tagline.
Yeah.
His tagline was, church is not about me or not about you. It's about God. And I know that was his tagline because it was
Because
it
it's
was
yeah.
on the pulpit.
Yeah.
I don't think it's there anymore because we had to put the mic there, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was,
So that was you that said that?
yeah, that was me. It was out of James. It's okay though. I mean, it's not really me, honestly, because it wasn't original with me. I got it from biblical counseling classes that I took. So,
That sounds about right.
why does a person do what they do? Because they want what they want. That comes out of James 4. So they didn't even get it originally, right? So what causes wars among you? It's because you want and you cannot get, and you start fighting about it. You have not because you ask not. Now he did talk about that. Pastor Rob talked a lot about you have not because you ask not, right? I remember that.
You ask and you don't get because you have bad motives.
Exactly. And of course that's James 4. And so But we do exactly what we want, and that is why we're morally culpable for doing whatever it is that we do, because we do it out of a desire. Now, sometimes our desires might be misguided. Sometimes our desires might be in the right place, and we just don't understand that this option is not going to bring about what we think we want. For example, people talk about they want happiness, and so they go out seeking happiness. And of course, seeking happiness, according to the means of this world, is going to land you in a whole lot of pain, misery, and regret. You might have some fun times along the way, but it's going to end up with that sort of thing in your, those sort of skeletons in your closet, if you will.
You hear people all the time say, well, I've been praying to God to let me win the lottery. There's a reason you're not winning the lottery,
You know.
probably.
And it's probably for your own good.
Exactly.
You know?
Probably that James 4 thing again.
Yeah. You'll spend it on your desires. Yeah.
What Proverbs have to say about that, inheritance gained quickly in the beginning will not be blessed in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I do.
Yeah. So anyway, so we will do whatever we want. Human beings always do whatever we want. And so when we talk about free will, the problem is that people oftentimes define free will as this. And I'll write this up on the board.
I'll
For
grab
the-
your next slideshow in the meantime.
Okay, that's cool. Free will, and they'll define it like this, but as we'll see, this definition of free will is absolutely illogical and impossible, and nobody actually believes in it, even though they say they do. They will say free will is the ability to have chosen otherwise in any given decision. Oops. The ability to have chosen otherwise in any given decision. Could you, I mean, think about a decision that you've made, some kind of decision, whatever choice it is in the past that you've made. Whatever choice that was, could you have chosen otherwise?
Depends on what you mean by could.
Is it possible for you, operating from your own free will, to have chosen other than you actually did?
You make that choice on the circumstances around you. So the best circumstances is the choice you're going to make.
Right. So is that a yes or no?
If you're speaking in the ultimate sense, then no. Because here's the problem. No being, including God, has free will by that definition.
That's because this definition of free will is logically inconsistent. It doesn't work. It's impossible. What it posits is that there's a free will that is unfettered from any sort of constraints, including the constraints of one's own nature. And every one of us is bound by the constraints of our own nature, our human nature, and as we will see, our sin nature. And we do exactly what we want to, so our desires predetermine our choice. We could not have chosen door A. If we chose door A, we could never have chosen otherwise, because we always choose what we most want to choose in that circumstance. Yeah.
And that is true of us with regard to nature, because we are in the image of God. God cannot choose contrary to his nature, and therefore we cannot.
And what would it be if God chose contrary to his nature?
I'm not sure there's an answer to that.
Well,
I mean, how would it play out exactly?
yeah, theoretically possible. If it was theoretically possible, which I would say it's not, because this doesn't exist. It would be sin, because he would be choosing against his own nature. His own nature is the absolute standard of right and wrong. That's what right and wrong is based on, is God's nature. And if God chose other than according to his own nature, it would be absolute. That would be sin. Does that make sense? So
Don't we have the ability to choose
Not-
otherwise?
no,
If we would go back?
exactly. No, the answer is no.
Why not? I don't understand that.
Nature.
I mean, in your mind, you
Yeah.
think it should have
See,
done something else.
Because your choice in the first place was governed by a whole bunch of different things. It could have been governed by your knowledge of choices available to you, your intelligence, your desire, something that appealed to you in the moment, because maybe that was affected by body chemistry because of something you ate. Like this morning on the way here, I was asleep this morning, but on the way here I had some caffeine. I hadn't had caffeine for a couple of days because I've been trying to hold off on it. And I was like, oh, I could think, and then I remembered, oh, I forgot clothes to baptize somebody in today. So yeah, but that was a biochemical thing within my brain, that was taking place. So in a given circumstance, you could not have chosen otherwise than you actually did.
Well, people always say, if I could go back and do things different, and I know what
Yeah, no,
that's a whole
different
other
circumstance.
set of
Yep,
circumstances.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
if I knew what I know now.
We all have said that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we've all
And
thought
that's
that. If I
not the
knew
same.
then what I know now, if I could tell 20-year-old me, fill in the blank,
Yeah.
what would I tell me?
I've got a list that's longer than this.
Yeah, the application of that to my life and choices. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, for real. No, that we all have that sort of thing. So the problem with this definition of free will is that it presupposes the ability of our volition to choose other contrary to our nature and contrary to our desires, and we don't have that. That doesn't exist. Nobody believes in that. If they think about the ramifications of it, think about it. If that were the case, then why do we try to rehabilitate criminals? The whole idea of rehabilitation for criminals is based on the idea that they can be rehabilitated if we change certain things in their environment and in their education and in their whatever, body chemistry or whatever, so as to make them better people. If we didn't believe that we could do that, we wouldn't try to rehabilitate. If this was true, there'd be no reason to rehabilitate anybody or even attempt it, because they could always choose contrary to their conditioning. If this were true, we wouldn't try to discipline our children. Why not?
Because they're going to do whatever they
Because
want.
they're going to do whatever they want to anyway, whatever their will decides, because they can choose contrary to their nature, right? So this definition of free will doesn't exist in anybody's world. It only exists in the philosophy of the libertarian, or not the libertarians, I can't think of their name now. Jean-Paul Sartre, existentialists. Thank you. I'm thanking myself, I guess. The existentialists. It only exists in their philosophy, which again is a vain rambling of godless philosophy. So, which Jean-Paul Sartre is a different study for a different day. But anyway, so this definition of free will is not a biblical definition. It's not even a logically consistent definition. A biblically consistent definition is this: for freedom of the will, is the ability. The ability to exercise volition to choose. And we can put many things in here. I'm just going to put godliness. You can say righteousness, or choose to obey God, or choose to do good. All of those things are sort of synonymous at this point. The ability to exercise volition to choose godliness. As a human, acting according to human nature, you have the ability to choose godliness. You say, well, why don't I feel that? Why don't I feel that? Well, we'll get to that. It is very hard to try to do good things, isn't it? It is very hard. In fact, for many people, for those who are not born again, it's impossible. But we'll get to that as time goes on. Now, this is paragraph 2. Okay, well, it's not a very long paragraph, and it's actually just kind of building. This is the whole paragraph, or the whole chapter on free will. As David, we were talking about this last Monday, I think, and he noted that this is building, starting at the very beginning, going through the stage of innocency, talking about the fall and how our free will has been affected by all of these things, and we'll see that as the 1689 as it progresses through the various paragraphs here. But this is what paragraph 2 says: man, in his state of innocency, had freedom and power to will and to do that which was good and well pleasing to God. So here's our definition: the ability to exercise volition to choose godliness. In his state of innocency, man had the freedom and power to will and to do that which is good and well pleasing to God. We had that. That was part of our human nature. We had it. We had the ability to do that. And when I say we and Adam had that. Not we as in any particular time in our life. But we and Adam had the ability to do that. However, look at the last phrase there. But yet was unstable so that he might fall from it. Fall from what? His state of innocency. So when we were made in a state of innocency. In other words, we were not guilty of any sin. We had no taint or corruption of any sin when human beings were created. And in the state of innocency, we could choose to exercise our will toward God. We could choose that, and it was a good thing. In fact, the fact that we can choose that is presupposed when God tells Adam, "You shall not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil." In other words, Adam, here's my rule: exercise your will accordingly. Right? Choose accordingly.
One rule.
Can you set me up there?
Oh, did I not?
It might have just kicked the table or something, because it was working a second ago. Now, man was created, and I want to make a distinction here. I don't think it's wrong to say that man was perfect when he was created, but I do want to make a distinction here so that we can understand the concept. So man was created in innocence, but not in perfection. What would be the difference if we're making a distinction between innocence and perfection?
Well, perfection, there would have been no ability to sin.
Okay, yeah, because we would not, and it would have been something that we would have been able to still choose, and we would never sin. Have you ever thought about that? How can God make a race of free beings, morally free beings, who will never sin? The angels didn't work out for them. Some of them sinned. Humans, they all sinned. We're all morally free beings.
Worked out for Adam for a short time.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, for a minute, but eventually it didn't, right? So eventually we fell. The only one that it's ever worked out for is Jesus, and he's God. So how does God create a race of humans, or a race of beings, if you will, who are free to sin, but they never do? Just keep that in the back of your mind for a bit. I think we'll get toward that over the next couple of weeks. How does he do that? But, so man was created in innocence, not in perfection. When we say it's in innocence, we know that Adam and Eve were sinless when God made them. And we know that because in Genesis chapter 1, it says that after God created, and after he closes out the sixth day, God beheld and it was all good. And then on the seventh day, he said God beheld it all and it was very good. Now, you don't get a very good from God if you have the stain of sin on you, okay? You don't get the gold star if you've got some sin, right? So we know that at least on day 7, as of day 7, Adam and Eve were sinless. They were innocent of any wrongdoing before God. And that is good. That is good. That was the state where we began. However, they were not perfect. And here's the basic difference between innocent and perfect. Innocent has to do with what has taken place in the past. We have never sinned, right? They had never sinned. Perfection has to do not only with past, but also more so with the future. To be perfect is to be perfect for something. There is a purpose implied in the concept of perfection. I'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the sermon today. But there is a purpose, and it's kind of like you're ready to buy a new car. What is the perfect vehicle for you to drive? What would make the perfect vehicle for you in the situation where you buy a new car?
Not a new one.
Okay, not a new one. Why not? A couple of reasons, right? Because one, it costs a whole lot more. What's that?
They talk about it could be a lemon.
Yeah, and then it could be a lemon. It's already, presumably, if it's a couple years old, it's got the bugs worked out of it. Or who knows? Maybe it's the lemon that they gave back. But yeah. So what else? Well, what kind of car you get is going to depend on what your purpose for it is. If you've got a long commute, you're going to want something that's fuel efficient. If you've got a recreational trailer to pull around, you're going to want something with some horsepower and some towing capacity. Those things are, by the way, mutually exclusive, as I found out back when we had a camper. But yeah, so what you want in a vehicle is going to be dependent on what your purpose for it is. Perfection, the perfect vehicle, therefore presupposes a purpose for which you are using it. Perfection presupposes purpose. And the interesting thing is that in the Greek language, when this word perfect is used, it is often used in reference to the word that's used, that's translated from is telos. Telos means something that is complete, or that purpose has been complete. We talk about things being teleological. It's the completeness of, to fulfill the purpose. So perfection has a purpose in mind. Innocence looks back. Perfection looks forward. So that's the difference. Now that's a difference. So Adam and Eve are not perfect in this sense. They are not perfect, and the fact that they're not perfect is demonstrated in the fact that they fall. They are innocent, but they are not perfect at that stage in history. And you can see that through Genesis 1:26 through 31. I've already mentioned or referred to those. I'm not going to go in detail through them. In his innocence, man had the ability to choose between pleasing God and not pleasing God, to do good or to do evil. We were innocent, but we were not perfect because why? Because our will had not been trained to the point where it would choose good freely 100% of the time. We were not perfect. In his innocence, though, what made the difference between what man could do and what he chose to do? He could have done good or evil. He chose to do one of the two. Why did he choose to do that?
Because he wanted what
There
he
we go.
wanted.
Good class. Very good. No, because he wanted to. That's it. That's really all it boils down to. I know that sounds really simple.
That's as basic and simple as it
Yeah.
is. He does what he does when he
Are we
wants
gonna
to.
hear that in the sermon?
What does he do? We might. I don't know. We'll see. I don't have it planned this thus far, but I am sort of. I'm not a manuscript guy, so it might work its way in there. We'll see.
Are we talking about God's will now?
So what? Well, no. At this point, Adam is choosing to do what he wants to do. Now, God has come in and God has provided a set of mitigating circumstances that hopefully gets him moving in the right direction. In other words, God has given him a law, right? He has given him a command. Do this, don't do that. Adam is free to do either of them. He can exercise his will against that. In his innocence, man's will is unstable in that it might choose to do that which is opposed to God. And guess what he does? He does, in fact, do that, which man is required by God's command to do good. In his state of innocence, man can choose to do either good or evil. But he's required by God's command to do good. That's the last one.
That's
Okay.
the whole thing, because it's predestined to do.
But did God know he was gonna do?
Oh, sure he did.
Okay.
God knows his nature. God knows his frame. Absolutely.
He wasn't gonna choose anything different because it was already.
That's right. Why didn't he choose anything different? Because he wanted what he wanted, which is why he's morally responsible for it.
We all
All of those
repeat
things
that.
happen together. There are two different answers to it. Are you speaking ultimately because of what God has determined, or are you speaking humanly with regard to what he wanted? Those things are compatible.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And
there's
that's-
a doctrine that's built on that word that deals with that very thing.
Well, and there is nothing, it can't be otherwise.
Right.
And God
Compatibilism.
didn't force him to make that choice. God knew he was going to make that choice,
But he
but
did.
didn't force him to.
He
Why
did.
have the tree there in the first place if you knew he was gonna make that choice?
Because there had to be some way
We
to.
actually discussed that on
Kids
Monday.
looking at his watch.
There had to
Well,
be,
that's a real easy answer, actually.
there
That's
had
a
to
real
be a
easy
way.
answer.
Well, you can answer it similar to how we've been answering things so far because God wanted to.
That's what I'm saying, it's God's will.
Yeah, and yet he's still responsible for the sin that he committed. Why did God do this? Why did God create mankind even though he knew he was going to fall? And see, this is the problem with the Arminian philosophy as well, because it doesn't escape what he's trying to escape. The Arminian wants to absolve God of any guilt of being involved with sin. And yet, if God knew that mankind was going to sin before he created him, and yet created him, even though he knew he was going to sin of his own free will, which he did, then how then can you how can you say that God's not responsible for that using their own criteria of responsibility, which is why the Arminian criteria of responsibility is flawed.
And the only way to get around that is to deny biblical orthodoxy when it comes to God. You have to
Absolutely.
deny his omniscience or deny his omnipotence. You have to do that.
Yeah, and then you're a
Take that
heretic.
responsibility, right? Then you're a heretic and you.
So yeah, God knew that Adam was going to sin, and why did God know that? So why did God create him? Well, God created him because God shows his love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So God wanted to show his love, and the way that God could do that, in the most significant way that God could do that, is to send Jesus to die for sinners. Well, in order to do that, you have to have a world where there are sinners, and you have to have a world where there is death. So death and sin are both necessary for God to demonstrate his love through the death of his son. And that was God's intent, to send Christ to die for sinners.
And it was also perfectly right for all of God's attributes to be gloriously on display.
Absolutely.
This includes his love and his mercy and his grace. It includes his anger, his wrath, and judgment and justice as well.
Amen.
You see, there was no need in God whatsoever. Full stop. Anytime you see something that I saw recently that got shared on Facebook about how God just wanted to have a relationship with people and didn't want people to be robots, and just wanted them to be able to have that free desires and all this sort of thing. Look, God didn't need any of that. God is self-sufficient. He has no needs of any sort. But it is good and right for his glory to be on display in all of his perfections. And none of that would have happened but for the created order that we're experiencing right now. Because, let's make sure we cement this in our minds. The Bible is about the glory of God first and foremost. It's not about us.
Amen. Amen. And God reveals his glory to us, and through us,
Yes.
and on us.
All of those things.
Yes.
And
So-
why? Because God wanted to.
According to his good
How
desire.
long do you think
Yep.
it took him to send? I want to know that. Like how many hours? How many minutes?
According to the Archbishop James Usher.
Hours?
Well, it had to be at least a day. They were created on day 6, and they rested on day number 7.
The rest of
Well,
Sunday,
It could have been,
I would say within 9 months because the command to be fruitful and multiply, So.
yeah. Who knows how quickly? Yeah. he did say. I mean, his first
It wouldn't
word,
take long.
Adam's first word when he saw Eve was, "Whoa, man!" Right? He called her woman, so he said, "Whoa, man!" Anyway.
The Hebrew terms are related just like the English ones.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you. It's good to have you in here, Max.
we have our drummer, and it is good.
All right. Well, anyway,
We better split.
yeah, it's about time to go. But yeah, we will continue this next week. And like I said, this is sort of the bridge between, this all just kind of flows, and it's hard not to get ahead of myself here. So we'll continue next week. Let's go ahead and pray, guys. Father God, thank you for today, and thank you, Lord, for your word.